All right, my little sweet potatoes. Today, I'm taking you back in time, Marty McFly style, to this week's detail-filled episode of the Owl House. We have so much to unpack that I'm gonna be splitting this ep into 2 videos. The first one will be all about breaking down time pools and Phillip Wittebane's official reveal. And in the next one, I'll give y'all the lowdown on Ida's estranged dad and some new info on the Collector. You're watching WhitneyVision, and this is part 1 of our breakdown of Elsewhere and Elsewhen. This is your spoiler warning! If you haven't seen Season 2, Episode 12 of the Owl House yet, hit pause on this video and come back once you've boogied down to History Town. I'm sad to report that there was 0 Lumity action this week, besides that post-it note reminding Luz to replace her girlfriend's bloody gloves. But don't worry, we have plenty to talk about. Like Phillip Wittebane being Belos. Not to get ahead of myself, but this episode pretty much confirms that the identity of Belos and Phillip Wittebane is one and the same. I've seen some slight holdouts that think this is a misdirect, and while technically it didn't spell it flat out for us, it's pretty clear that this episode is a snapshot of Belos' origin story, complete with motivations for hating witches, clues towards his monstrous appearance, and white robes in his living quarters. But let's rewind. The episode begins with a party celebrating Lilith's new gig. She's now working as the assistant curator at the Supernatural Museum of History, which makes sense. She was so stoked to discover all of those ancient mysteries on King's Island, and she's determined to bring her love of Deadwardian balusters to the people of Bonesborough. The guest list for her party includes Hootie, Ida, Mama Clawthorne, King, Morton the potion vendor, Tiny Nose, and 2 members of the Emperor's Coven, Flora D'Esplora and Steve the Coven Scout. Flora is basically a mashup of Dora the Explorer and Indiana Jones, and she was sent by Belos to keep an eye on Lilith. Unlike Indy, however, this witch can absolutely handle riding a snorse. She used to be Lilith's mentor in the EC, and her palisman is a whip attached to the head of a monkey. Her presence at the party is what fuels Lilith to push the boundaries of bad girl history and come up with an exhibit that will rival Flora's adventures. My question about Flora is, if she's the premier historian of the Boiling Isles, is she complicit, if not flat-out responsible, in erasing the true past? From the moment we learned about the Savage Ages, it's pretty safe to say that all of us knew we weren't getting the full story. Kiki Mora made it sound like it was all fire and brimstone and chaos back then. But when we actually see Deadwardian Bonesborough, it looks awesome as heck. Back in the day, people were just healing each other on the street and creating abominations to play with, and using their unrestricted wild magic peacefully. Based on the conversions Lilith was running in this episode, they also used to measure things in boiling units. Now they use empirical units, which sounds like another Belos implementation. He is a British colonizer after all, so parallels between IRL imperial units and the Owl House's empirical units aren't hard to draw. I think that as one of Belos' devotees, Flora was the one responsible for expertly crafting an alternate history of the Boiling Isles to brainwash the masses. Just like in real life, the ones who win the war are usually the ones who write our history, and it's abundantly clear that the version being fed to the people of the Boiling Isles is biased as all get out. Wittebane was even rewriting history as he was living it, as evidenced when Luz catches him pulling a Gilderoy Lockhart on her and Lilith later in the episode. If Flora really is another extension of Belos' control of the Isles, I think it's safe to assume that she's being primed as a rival foil that Lilith will get to throw down with. But even though the fight scenes are top-notch on this show, I'm hoping it's more of a cerebral throwdown, like pub trivia, or invalidating Flora's entire academic career with an expose on the true history of the Isles. Now that would be a banger exhibit, Lulu. Speaking about the true history of the Isles, I love how nonchalantly time-traveling magic was introduced in this episode. Sure, it's still rare and limited, but Luz just having an epiphany that she could use time travel magic to solve her problems, and Ida shrugging and handing her a book on the topic is really funny to me. Time travel opens up a bunch of shenanigans for writers, and as we'll get to towards the end of this video, the implications of its existence make for limitless theory fodder. In general, time travel can be a hard story element to manage without it undermining the rest of the story, so I'm glad it's balanced by only being accessible in sporadic places for narrow time frames. To reliably locate these pools, it takes Titan's blood, one of the rarest and most valuable resources for our characters already. Time pools themselves are made possible by coagulated Titan blood mixed with the algae of the boiling sea. Time travel logic usually comes in 3 flavors. First, there's fixed time on a single continuum, where everything that has happened will happen. This means that time traveling is already to account for in the flow of history and nothing can be stopped, fixed, or changed. What happens simply will happen. Think Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban for reference. Sometimes only certain major events are fixed in time, which gives characters a little more wiggle room and agency. Then there's non-fixed time on a single continuum. This is essentially Back to the Future rules, where you can change the past, but doing so affects your own past, present, and future. This type of time travel presupposes a singular timeline, like a fixed timeline, but it's easily mutatable, which makes it incredibly dangerous due to paradoxes. If you don't know why these are bad, just listen to Doc Brown.
The encounter could create a time paradox, the results of which could cause a chain reaction that would unravel the very fabric of the space-time continuum and destroy the entire universe.
Time paradoxes come in a variety of flavors, and not all of them are exclusive to this type of time travel. Lastly, there's time travel that creates a branching multiverse of timelines. This is sort of how the MCU works now that Loki, No Way Home, and What If have clarified on the lore established in Endgame. This type of time travel is malleable and relatively safe for the time traveler, but the changes they seek to make aren't undoing the events of the original timeline. According to history's top 10 plot holes, time in the Owl House is circular. This lends itself towards being a closed loop and a fixed single continuum timeline. This is supported by the fact that Lilith kicks herself in the head, and by Tara's ominous message foreshadowing to Luz that she would soon meet Belos. This means it's likely that our heroes are on a predestined path. If this is the case, it could lead to several interesting predicaments when we get to the theory portion of this video. History's top 10 plot holes also features the same Einstein-Rosen bridge diagram that I talked about in my video where I dissected Phillip Wittebane's diary entries. An Einstein-Rosen bridge is a fancy term for a wormhole linking different points in space-time. Side quest, I need to read more of these plot holes. According to the book, some of the other most famous supernatural mysteries on the Boiling Isles include Twigfoot, Lenderman, and the dreaded possum. And by possums, I mean trash cats. When Lilith warns Luz of the risks of creating temporal paradoxes, she also mentions the bloody fly effect, a reference to the butterfly effect, a theory about the dangers of altering even the smallest moment in time, and how doing so could set forth a domino chain that could spell disaster. Although the cool auntie-niece pair were expecting to find literal pools of water, Luz realizes that the pools are actually made up of sand, a play on the sands of time. They can sort of quicksand you through to another era in the past. At first, they're taken all the way back to the Cretaceous period, where they find ancient shellfish, barnacles, and even a stone sleeper. Stone sleepers are kinda like triceratopses with cute floppy ears and the ability to hibernate by turning themselves into stone like a gargoyle. Stone sleeper lung is also an important part to creating grimwalkers according to Belos' evil cookbook, probably due to the lungs having magical properties for retaining or creating breathable air while petrified. Hopefully it also doesn't mean that our stone sleeper friend at the end of the episode found their way into a grimwalker stew. Ugh. Luz eventually finds the Deadwardian era, around the 1660s or 1670s in human time, and sets off to find Phillip Wittebane. The author of the diaries has bushy brown hair, light gray eyes, and wears a jacket with the letter A stitched on the left side. I don't know about you, but that A is pretty sus to me. But seriously, is this even his jacket? Or did he steal it from someone? Like maybe a conveniently missing brother? We're being led to believe that his brother died tragically, but we've seen that Phillip has a habit of misrepresenting the truth, so I definitely think we're gonna see what really went down soon enough. Despite coming across as an inquisitive scholar and historian, we learn in this episode that Wittebane has been a detriment to the Isles since his arrival, and is a Class A jerk. Unfortunately, our sweet, trusting little baby Luz puts her faith in Phillip before truly getting to know him, like she always does. Unlike Lilith, she doesn't see through his charm, bravado, and constant compliments. And even after watching him get into a tussle with Red Fang and Green Fang, she doesn't question his motives. Come on, girl, I know you want to see the best in people, but after Kikimora and Hunter and Adagast, you gotta be a little more wary of strangers' intentions. It's pretty clear that he murdered Blue Fang and his palisman. The two brothers mention that Wittebane did something to his supposed companion. And later on, you can see Blue Fang's palisman and his extracted fang in Phillip's satchel. Supposedly, Blue Fang didn't fare well as a distraction against the Stone Sleeper, but the fact that Phillip is harvesting his body parts is pretty concerning on its own. Towards the end of the episode in Phillip's home, we actually see two price-tagged people pieces just laying around, a rib cage and a severed forearm in hand. These red flags are pointing towards some horrific experimentations, but more on that later. Wittebane tricks Luz and Lilith into following him to the Titan's skull via an advanced spell glyph circle. As you can see, this glyph is made up of 20 fire, ice, and plant glyphs. The centermost glyph is fire, and if you look closely, two of the smaller circles attached to the main glyph also have fire centers. He makes a nearly identical combo glyph later in the episode, but small elements like the orientation of fire glyphs are changed. Could this mean that the fire glyphs code the spell's distance, direction, and/or location? The only glyph that Wittebane had yet to discover was light, and Luz optimistically taught it to him. We've seen the complexity of spells that Phillip can make with just 3 glyphs. Imagine what he can do now that he has the light glyph from Luz. His spellbook just got exponentially thicker. I actually think he's implemented the light glyph to power and program all the faux techno magic he uses. Think about it. Writing glyphs is essentially coding, so theoretically he could create an entire computer out of glyphs. Like, maybe there's a combo that shrinks him or other glyphs down to microchip size, giving him the tools to build a staff that has numerous tiny combo glyphs stacked together. With the right level of programming, he could theoretically make a glyph magic-based computer that could type up glyphs as he needs them. Should we be afraid of Magic Skynet? But there's a bigger story here in this cave. You see, Wittebane convinces Lilith and Luz to help him solve a puzzle at the entrance to a secret chamber, located deep within the Titan's skull. Interestingly, Luz was just looking at this page in his diary after Lilith's party. She couldn't have possibly realized at the time that these 2 figures standing in front of the door puzzle actually represented her and Lilith. This also means that this diary entry was written after Luz and Lilith met Phillip, after Lilith broke his entitled smug face, and after he started to Hulk out like a Full Metal Alchemist villain, swearing a vengeance against which kind. This means that Phillip's diary was specifically planted by Belos to lead Luz to his past self, and he's been guiding her the entire time. Puts an answer to the puppet strings line of the secret riddle. Why? Well, 1, because time seems to be a fixed continuum, but 2, because Belos needed Luz to give him the light glyph and help him excavate the treasure in the Titan's skull. It's uncertain at which point Belos realized that Luz and Lilith were Luzura and Gertrude, but if he saw past Lilith's disguise in heterochromia, he could have been pulling the strings of our heroes the whole time. If he's utilized oracle magic, it's possible that he knows that Lilith was Gertrude and Luz was coming to the Isles before they were even born. He could have put young Lilith in contest with young Ida at the very start, perhaps even being the one to push her towards cursing Ida with the Owl Beast. At the very least, he's kept adult Lilith close to his chest since seeing her resemblance to Gertrude. And remember when Lilith said that she felt like Flora D'Esplora was intentionally pissing her off to make her go on a wild adventure like this?
It's almost as if the Emperor wanted Flora to tick me off.
Maybe she was being played by Flora. The box Flora returned to Lilith from her old office just so happened to have the time pool locating machine in it, which totally doesn't seem coincidental.
I did cobble together a device to find these with Ida. It should be in the box Flora returned to me.
Maybe this is the whole reason why Belos and the other members of the Emperor's Coven have never harmed Luz or her friends, despite them being seemingly easy targets. I definitely thought that it was pretty bizarre that Belos spared Luz, Ida, and King's lives at the petrification ceremony, instead of just annihilating all of them and stealing the door portal. You know that Star Wars theory where that the reason why stormtroopers have bad aim is because Darth Vader secretly told them to purposely miss when shooting at his kids? What if the reason why the Clawthorne sisters, Luz, King, and Hooty haven't been captured or killed is because Belos was holding off until this trip? He knew that on a fixed timeline, Luz was destined to reach him, so he's given her a false sense of victory. Even under more flexible time travel rules, if Luz was unable to make it back to the past for any reason, it could create time paradoxes, and reality would be totally effed. Dude has been playing the long game, waiting for Luz to find his journal, jump to the past, and fulfill their time-traveling destiny. This means a whole bunch of things for the rest of the story going forward. First of all, it's likely that Belos revealed this little fun fact to selective coven heads so that they could help guide his plan, such as planting seeds in Luz and Lilith's minds via Terra's weird comment about Belos looking forward to meeting Luz, and Flora's unnerving silent pressure on Lilith to overperform. This means Belos isn't alone in the plotting, so the Bad Girl Coven is at a severe disadvantage against his entire empire. Second, now that Luz and Lilith are back to the present day and the time loop is closed, does this mean that Belos no longer has a reason to keep either of them alive? What if their lives are now more seriously in danger than we even realize? Luz no longer has fate or time paradoxes protecting her. Belos can take the gloves off. I have faith in the Bad Girl Coven though. Even if they've been fighting Belos on easy mode this whole time, Luz and Lilith both still managed to outsmart Wittebane. I love that this is the second time a bad guy has tried to kill Luz with a terrifying beast, and instead, Luz just ends up cuddling the heck out of it. Also, now that time travel is in place, I have a feeling that Luz will be going back in time at some point to become the direct inspiration for the Good Witch Azura book series. So, she's got a little more time armor if you ask me. Now, let's get back to taking a closer look at Wittebaine's lair. Like I mentioned earlier, dude has a plethora of sketchy things in there. Like all of the corpses just casually decorating the place like Funko Pops. Slow down, Jeffrey Dahmer. What the hell do you need a dead guy's ribcage for? Actually, Wittebane is even grosser than Dahmer because at least Dahmer kept his people pieces in the fridge. I can't even begin to comprehend how disgusting that room must smell with all of those palisman bodies and severed limbs lying around. Most interesting, however, is the diagram hanging above Wittebane's desk, featuring an image of a human or witch body with specific parts labeled in his notes. In addition to the pair of eyes at the top of the page, we also see a line pointing to the body's heart and another pointing to the kidneys. But do you guys remember the page from his diary where he sketched out his plans for operating the portal? The diagram in that entry pointed to a pair of kidneys and a heart, just like in these plans. I previously theorized that those pages show that Belos is harvesting witch organs to power the door portal. And based on the state of Wittebane's lair, I think I might actually be right. Hear me out. What if Belos is only keeping Hunter alive to use him as one of his many sacrifices?
I'll probably require another sacrifice sooner or later.
What if he's been raising Hunter for the sole purpose of using his innards to open the portal? Perhaps he created Hunter to produce a very specific organ or body fluid for the dark ritual he's prepping for. Perhaps all these body parts he purchased, from the night market I'm assuming, were used in his first attempts at traveling back to the human realm. Before eyeball chugging another palisman smoothie, Wittebane reveals his hulked out left arm. I don't know about you, but I was immediately transported to the Infinity Train as soon as I saw those magic tattoos on his distorted flesh. Like the conductor, it seems that Wittebane continued to add more and more ink to his skin until he rotted away into the sludge boy he is today. But unlike Amelia, however, I don't think that Belos' markings can be reversed through making emotional progress. He said it himself. Wittebane knew he was dying then, and foolishly assumed that he'd only have to hold out a little longer to enact his plans. Yikes. You ever commit to a project that you think will go quickly, but it actually takes you like 400 years to finish? Relatable. I know you all are curious about what Phillip plans to do with the round boy and the collector, but I'm gonna save that for another video along with Del's breakdown. For now, let's wrap things up by going over this week's secret code. Last week the code read, "Seething sees in puppets strings, he no longer dreams of kings." And today's update is the word as. So he no longer dreams of kings as what? As the Day of Unity arrives? As the eclipse rises? As his plans come to fruition? I don't know. Guess we'll have to wait for next week's clue to find out more. These are just some of my thoughts on everything that went down with Phillip Wittebane in this episode, but I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Like and subscribe to WhitneyVision and follow us on Instagram and Twitter to stay in the loop for more Owl House breakdowns. I'm Scarlet Wit, and you're watching WhitneyVision.